Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're out here with Arwen today. We have ducks, but we're actually out here with Arwen. We also have chickens. There's chickens everywhere. But we're actually out here to talk about not Arwen, but goats in general. So today I wanted to talk about the final medical condition we are going to talk about regarding goats. These are not all the medical conditions you might encounter with your goats. These are just the most common. And today I want to talk about one that actually affects more wethers and sometimes bucks than does. Okay? The condition I'm talking about today is urinary calculi. Now, urinary calculi does not affect does very often. Doesn't affect your females very often. It sometimes affects your bucks, but it very often affects your castrated males, your wethers. So urinary calculi are tiny crystals that form inside the urinary tract. These can get stuck in the urethra, the passage that leads from the bladder to the outside of the body, the way the pee exits the body. So if these little crystals get caught, then they can block that passage, and then your goat can't pee. That's a problem. If you can't pee, eventually your bladder's going to burst. So this is a problem. So does, females, have a larger urethra, so it's generally not a problem. Can they still get those crystals? Yes. But those crystals tend to just pass through. They just tend to pee them out because their urethra is larger. Bucks can have a problem because their urethra is not quite as big, but not really. Okay, so they can have a problem, but it's still not super common. Wethers often have this problem because castrating a goat, or really any animal, stops the growth of the penis. Okay, when you do this very young, the penis doesn't finish developing, so the urethra is not actually finished developing. So the longer a goat goes, a little boy goes from being a baby to being wethered, the better it is long-term for him when it comes to urinary calculi. So urinary calculi will not really be as much of a problem if you wait longer to castrate. Generally, I would say don't castrate before 8 weeks. I prefer 12 weeks or even beyond. When I have my own goats, I actually don't castrate them until they're 4 to 5 months old, which sounds old, and it's a little too old for banding. I wouldn't band at that age. At that age, I have the vet come out and do it, and he has a clamp, and he does the whole thing, and it's all good. But I wouldn't band at that age, and I wait longer just because I want them to finish developing. I don't want this to become a long-term problem, okay? So you don't have to wait that long. If you are going to wait that long, obviously, you have to separate baby from mama and sisters so you don't end up with unexpected babies who are super closely related. And you also might want to use a buck apron if you can't separate. Now, obviously, buck aprons are not foolproof, but they help. I prefer just to separate if I'm going that way. But you can try a buck apron. You can also just give it a whirl and band younger, but do know that you are potentially risking urinary calculi forming in your wether eventually. This is a dangerous thing for a goat. If you suspect it, there is a procedure you can do at home, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, and I'm not going to show you how to do it. First of all, I don't have a boy right now. I have had boys in the past. But I don't want to talk about how to do it and then have someone do it and then have a bad outcome. Because if you're good at it, you can do it at home and it can help. It may not help long term. You still may need the vet, but it'll help you in that moment. But ideally, you notice when this is happening, you'll notice that he's straining to pee and you immediately call your vet. That's actually really important. Get the vet out, see what they can do. Long term, you want to adjust the diet. So if you have wethers, you want a diet that is lower in calcium. Ideally, you want like a 2-to-1 phosphorus calcium ratio, which means you want twice as much phosphorus as calcium. that will help prevent those stones from forming in the first place. That's what you want. If you can avoid having those stones form at all, then you're not going to have a problem. So try to up the phosphorus, lower the calcium. Okay, so check your feeds. See, there are feeds created specifically for wethers that are specifically lower in calcium, and these can really help. Check your minerals. Make sure there's not a ton of calcium in them. You just want to make sure you keep those calcium numbers as low as is possible. Also, make sure your goats have constant access to water. This is universal, okay, with all of the goats, all of your animals. So, yes, you definitely want to make sure they have constant access to water. Make that water as attractive as you can. You want the water to be clean, flowing, something that they want to go and drink, so they actually go and drink it. Because the more water your wethers especially consume, the less likely they are to have a problem with these crystals in their urinary tract. It can kill your little goats. So definitely stay on top of that. If you are castrating bucklings, don't do it at 4 weeks of age. I know some people do. Don't do it. Wait until they're at least 2 months old. It helps prevent these just by allowing the organs and the anatomy to finish forming. So don't castrate too young, plenty of water, low calcium. That's the best thing you can do, especially if you have wethers, in order to prevent urinary calculi. Anyway, that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. That is the last medical problem we're going to cover with goats. We're going to move on to breeding your goats, which is something I have done in the past. I am going to do again. We're just not currently doing, but we will start talking about it next week. We'll see you tomorrow.